Hello, I'm Charlie Raphael, and you're watching AnyButton2Start. On today's episode of Neo Ludens, the Play Element podcast, I interview highly influential video essayist ThorHighHeels. We speak about her process, YouTube thumbnails, and how she picks games to cover in her videos. If you'd like to see monthly interviews with some of the most interesting voices in games discourse, subscribe to the channel. Now, without further ado, ThorHighHeels. Hello, ThorHighHeels. Thank you for sitting down with me today and agreeing to do this interview. Maybe for people who don't know you, even though I'm sure a lot of people watching do, maybe introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your videos and your channel, please.
Well, my channel, I just kind of talk about whatever I find interesting or like about video games. Whatever that is, it doesn't matter if it's old games, new games. That's what I do, really.
Your channel, more than a lot of people that I've covered, sort of just feels to be like almost mood board-esque in the way in which you cover stuff. You don't really have like a unified theme or aesthetic necessarily. You sort of just go with whatever you're feeling, right?
I'm very like phases based in general with stuff I listen to, with things I'm interested in, whatever. So I kind of go through these phases of like, this is what I'm like obsessed with now. And it includes my channel. So it's like whatever my latest video is just what I've been kind of obsessed with the past like month or whatever.
I'm actually really struck by your channel, how that thing that you said, phases, I sort of see it as eras. You have eras on your channel, and even just looking through your thumbnails you can see those eras. Like I think you called it your zine era in like 2022, when all
that
of the
was
thumbnails
very much what that was.
had a similar theme. So it's interesting to see almost immediately you see that within your channel.
I have that too, yeah. But I guess mostly what I mean is like on like a monthly basis as well. I'll just have this thing I'll just like really like hyper focus on. Like a month and more ago, it was like Pokemon. I was like playing Pokemon Gen 1. I was doing Pokemon cards stuff. You can see them over there still. The decks in the boxes. I was doing a lot of Pokemon stuff, and so this video came out of that, which is currently my latest upload. It's just always kind of like that. And then before then, I was like really obsessed with Dragon Ball Z, and so that's why the video before that is like all about Dragon Ball games. I was watching all the Dragon Ball movies and playing a bunch of games, and it's just kind of how my brain works.
Yeah, and seemingly that's from going deep down into your channel. I guess that's always been the thing, right? That you're just even your like more standardized review series that you bring back occasionally and sometimes have the "so I've been playing," that like built into the title of that is like this idea of, oh, this is just whatever I've been thinking about recently, right?
Yeah, though for like a lot of the 2010s, if not all, honestly all of the 2010s, I had like a weekly upload schedule.
Right.
So it was a bit more just like a bit more like scatterbrain, just doing whatever I want.
But that was before really I assume you're doing this full time along with you make music as well, right?
Yeah, like I wouldn't say full time, but like I do music, and then I have my Patreon, which helps a shitload. And
but as in the stuff you were doing in the 2010s was less, that you were doing weekly uploads and stuff, but it was less like of your, I get a career, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I was living off of disability money back then, so my lifestyle technically wasn't that different as it was now. I still just did kind of only this. But back then I had this real sort of like desperation of wanting to get off of disability, and I wasn't in a very good housing situation either. So that's where the weekly upload schedule came from. So it was a little bit less like, now it's like very like exclusively passion driven. And back then it was also just like trying to keep the demons away and just constantly working. So that's why I had such a crazy upload schedule back then.
But I mean, even I know I'm already going super off topic. I'm just thinking as we're talking, a lot of times in your videos, you will be covering one thing, and suddenly, and you sometimes use it to comedic effect, you will like switch to a completely different game that wasn't in the title or the thumbnail, and maybe it seems like, and you've talked about in your videos before, that you've reconstituted like old scripts that didn't end up working out as their own videos into other videos. So it feels like a lot of the time, although you're not uploading weekly, it's like there is this chronological order to your thinking in a lot of the videos.
Yeah, I'd say a sort of like a core fundamental thing of my channel is that like I find a lot of connective tissue between things, like the way certain works are connected, be that through time periods and blah blah blah. And that's kind of what I was always sort of interested by, but in like the past 5 years or so, a main driving force has just been the realization that like the connective thing that I found was usually just that like I'm the connective thing. The fact that I like these things, that's what connects them for me. And so then I can just start connecting, like I'm just going to talk about this now. To me, it'll make sense. To people watching, it might be really weird, but I kind of stopped caring.
I see that, and I think it makes for, you never can really predict where one of your videos is going. So I think it weirdly enough, it goes in your favor, even with like, and I've been with the other people I've been talking to, I've been talking a little bit about this, but like YouTube as like product, YouTube as like the things you have to do to market YouTube videos, or watch time being incentivized and stuff, and how people fight against that or embrace it. And weirdly, on the surface, that idea of like going off on a tangent, completely talking about a different game that's not in the title or something, might seem antithetical to like what YouTube want from their people's videos. But weirdly enough, like changing the subject, bringing that sort of mood board aspect to it, can keep people watching, right?
Yeah.
Not that I think you think about that a lot when you're making your videos. It seems very personal, passion based, as you said.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I consider like algorithm stuff to like a degree, because it is what I make my living off of, and I sometimes I really wish I wouldn't have to. If the day ever comes where like my music earnings eclipse even my Patreon and stuff like that, like reliably, that I can stop caring less about like how well my videos do, then I'm just going completely I've been calling it fuck it mode. It's like a working title internally. Fuck it mode, where I'm just going to completely do whatever I want. And occasionally I'll do videos that are kind of in the style of that. The Pokemon video was one of them. Also did a video late last year on JFK Reloaded. There's also just one of those things where like, I don't think this is going to do well even remotely, and it didn't. But it's just something I really wanted to do and just have fun with.
And I mean, I watched that JFK Reloaded video last night. And yeah, despite the lack of YouTubiness, or I guess from what you're saying, lack of success of the video, it's got some of like your most interesting analysis of games as like products in it. Like the stuff you were talking about documentary games was so interesting. So I think regardless, you are making interesting stuff, even if people aren't necessarily like searching those search terms all the time or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of an internal battle I have with myself with YouTube. Like something like that big Dragon Ball video from a few months ago. I had fun making that, but I don't look at that video as like being particularly like important to me. I was just like, well, this is probably going to do all right because it's a big long video with multiple games. Those tend to do best for me. So I consider that then for that video, but then the thing I made afterwards, it was like, well, I did that. I made something for y'all. Now I'm going to do something for me again. That's kind of...
And the video after that was the Pokemon one? Yeah. And then before that was your MGS3 Pachislot video, right?
God, that fucking...
Ooh, the hesitation there is intriguing, because I think that is one of the coolest videos on YouTube, period. Like I really, really like that video, and I have a question about it later, but
Okay, for sure.
Well,
you see it there.
Yeah. No, it's hard for me not to stare at it, to be honest. Has it collected much dust?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
There were talks of it going to a computer museum, but the curator was like, no, it doesn't fit.
Doesn't
So
fit. Oh man.
I'm stuck with it. If anyone wants to take it from me, by all means.
Okay, interesting. The offer is open then. I guess I will start in the questions I've actually got written down, because I'm scared that this is slightly too scatterbrained. Although
okay.
That's my favorite type of thing anyway. You mentioned that your most successful videos were like the ones, big long videos with multiple games covered in one video. They obviously are a theme you sort of keep on coming back to on your channel, whether it be Japan only PS1 series and then how that morphed into other console Japan only videos, and even in your PS3 mysterious PS3 games, where you sort of, instead of just talking about games that you have found interesting, you unify everything under like a banner of Sophistifuture, or you come up with a new phrase or something like that. When you make these videos, how conscious are you of the role of like the curator? And I've heard you mentioned before the idea of like video zines, and when you're making these types of videos, that's what you're thinking about, right?
Well, I was in like 2022, 2023. Right. That was like kind of like what I was thinking about then, less so now. It really differs per video. The thing I'm working on now is a mysterious PSP games video. I have like 3 main games I talk about and a few games that are kind of like sprinkled throughout to like connect games together. And it has like a real sort of like narrative through line in the video. I won't spoil it, I guess, but
yeah.
The selection in that video is really just very personally driven. It's not like, oh, these are cool things I want to recommend to people. It's very much just like, well, what personally resonated with me for this.
What you want to write about versus what is popular or what the audience want, right?
It's interesting that you say that, because it really depends on per video. This video is very much what I was interested in playing. It was just purely, these are games I had like I like knew of or was interested in since like childhood, or even before that doesn't make any sense, since like childhood. And so that's kind of like, I guess, the through line of this video is just like, these are games that are in some form important to me, but I haven't played them yet, or never fully, and I wanted to do that very badly. And that's kind of the crux of this video. But then with that big Dragon Ball video, it was very much just like, I wanted to make sort of like, there's like a retrospective on Dragon Ball Z games I used to really like. But then that creator got sort of canceled for being icky, and it kind of tainted that series for me. And so I always had that idea of like, okay, someone else needs to make sort of like a big comprehensive video of like all the cool Dragon Ball games, who doesn't suck. And I was like, well, I guess I will do that then, because it wasn't happening for years. And so that was the motivation behind that video. And so that video was very much just like, there were a lot of games in there I didn't really necessarily want to play. But I was just like, this is good for the video. I feel like this would make the video more fun if I talk about this, or if this is featured. And so that's what went into that video. It very depends on the video, but
when you're picking a video that is, picking a game for a video that maybe falls in the middle of those two extremes of like, I'm really interested in playing this game versus this would be good for the video, like, you focus a lot on aesthetics, visuals within your videos. Is there something, a category in the middle of those two things, which is like, this game looks cool, this game is a curiosity, let me investigate it? You get what I mean by that? That's sort of in the middle by those two things. That's something that you've explored, right? Like, you've seen a screenshot for something, and then
it's usually very like, sometimes that's all I need. I'll just hear the right song from the game soundtrack, or see just one screenshot, and I'm like, ooh, whatever this is, I want to see that in person. I want to go there. And then that'll be enough for me to want to play it, and also be enough for me to kind of guarantee that I will like the game, which is largely why my videos are so positive. Because like all the other parts that I might not really vibe with, I don't care. I already got out of it what I wanted to, and what I knew I was gonna get based off of what I had seen before even playing it.
Yeah, you've talked about that in your videos before, that you are good at just focusing on the parts you like and sort of ignoring the parts that you don't like within a game, and that makes for this sort of positivity within your videos that is like authentic, because I find that so many game reviewers, video essay types will sometimes try to be like overly positive about something in a way that is, you can tell they're sort of just either brushing over an aspect of a game or like sort of trying to convince themselves that they like it. How do you avoid that like toxic positivity? Because you've obviously made the video Games I Hate, which was a direct response to this idea, right? But even through that, you found a part of the game that you featured that you actually really liked and loved. So is that a struggle for you, like remaining positive in like an authentic way?
No, because if I don't like something, I will just not necessarily be interested in talking about it. And there's definitely videos where I do have like things to say that are kind of negative. In a big like that really big Dragon Ball Z video, there's defo games on there that I'm not too fond of, and I'm not afraid to let that be known either. But I included them not because I was necessarily that interested in the game, but because I thought it would be good for the video. So I'm not like, I think that might help as well, that I'm not like exclusively positive. If I don't mess with something, I will be honest about that too. But no, it's not like I like set out to be positive, or like that's like my gimmick, or I'm like, oh, I'm the video game liker. Like, no, it's just for me, it's very easy to just talk about what inspires me, what I think is fun, what I think is interesting. So naturally, that's what I'm gravitating towards. And I've just kind of stopped caring about talking about all the other stuff. And so the positive things remain, basically.
In your Deadly Premonition 2 review, which you kindly directed me towards earlier today.
That thing's ancient. That's not a positive video at all, I think.
No, but you still couch it within like at least a semi-constructive way. You're not just shitting on the game. And I actually think your is it What's the Problem with Sweary video?
That's a sequel to that video, yeah.
It feels like it really, you take some of the loose threads from the Deadly Premonition 2 video and you wrap them up in a way that feels, you know, you're not overly positive about it. You're not glossing over the bad parts of Sweary's library, but you still come out with something interesting. And I think what you talk about at the very beginning of that Deadly Premonition 2 video sort of really helped me frame a lot of your analysis, even up to today, where you say that a lot of video game YouTubers or people that write about video games, they have this idea that gameplay is central to a game, and that every other design aspect, whether visual or audio or kinesthetic, will feed into that. Whereas you almost see it as the opposite, where gameplay is only there to really bolster the themes or the aesthetics.
The gameplay is not necessarily what I'm most interested in. I can like it, but I'll like it for how it strengthens the things I'm actually interested in most, as like someone who does music and visual art and like blah 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 blah. So that's what I gravitate towards most, and I think that's a very key difference in how I look at games, like in general, compared to not everyone, but like most other people who do video game stuff.
Yeah, and in sort of this world of like the Silent Hill 2 remake, where in which combat was overemphasized, I would say, obviously random example, but in a world where like
I still haven't played the remake.
No, well, I don't think
like to though.
I mean, it's an interesting thought experiment, but as like the idea that the aesthetics are bolstering gameplay or vice versa is definitely pushed towards that other end, where, and my point is that, you know, the average like dude gamer person will see the jank or bad controls or whatever the case may be as a hindrance to something, where you might reinterpret that as something intentional. And I just think a lot of these questions are, how conscious are you of this? What do you think of this? But yeah, right. You are very conscious.
I mean, I've been doing this since like 2012, so I've had a lot of time to think about why or what I do.
And how it responds to what everyone else is doing. Is that something you're conscious of?
I mean, to a degree, I feel like I have to be, but at the end of the day, I'm still just kind of like following my own whims, really.
But you've mentioned before that you watch a lot of YouTube.
Yeah.
And that you have like YouTube based inspiration points. I mean, of course you do, but you've mentioned a couple specifically, Todd in the Shadows, who I am also a huge fan of, and Slow Beef, who I wasn't aware of until you mentioned them. But how have like the YouTube based influences influenced you and your videos? Like, are there specific examples of YouTubers that really inspired you?
So like how I started my channel is maybe a bit divergent from how most people in the kind of field that I am have. Because I didn't have like one sort of channel that I was inspired by to start making videos. What kind of drove me to start making videos was just the desire to do something creative with games. And at the time, I thought making games myself was not an option. I was like, oh, that's not going to happen. So, and I saw some like Let's Play videos, like I was watching a lot of like Minecraft Let's Plays and things like that, because it's like, 2011, 2012. And so I was like, oh, you can do something with video games other than making them that's still creative. And so that was my main drive. And it wasn't until I started making videos that I was already doing that I started seeing some other people who were doing kind of like similar things, I guess. And only then kind of taking from them. So a lot of the things I have maybe taken from other people are like kind of small little cues here and there. I was just like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like with like Slowby, for example, it's nothing about like what or how they did videos with like Red Supre back then. It was just the types of games that they talked about and just like introducing a lot of games to me where I was like, oh, and they were kind of making fun of a lot of those games. But I was just realizing that like I was like remembering those videos very fondly. And so I only had positive things to associate with the games that they were kind of shitting on and making fun of. And so that then influenced a lot of what I did, was like, well, I like this. Like I don't care. I don't want to make fun of it. I just want to talk about it and appreciate it. So that's like a weird sort of inspiration thing where like one thing kind of led to another for me, rather than me just seeing someone doing something and me like yoink.
Let me do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even that sounds like, whether consciously or not, there was like this response of like a slight defiance at the way in which those games in particular were being treated, like by the general public, and this idea of even taking games that might be, the idea of mysterious games to another mind might just be like bad games. And that idea of taking games that are less appreciated and trying to appreciate them, even though it seems to come quite easily to you, you're clearly not doing it out of like contrarianism or anything. You genuinely enjoy these games.
Yeah, I'm just interested in them. I've struggled with this because I sometimes do get comments being like, oh, you're like a contrarian or some shit. But whatever context they put me in, I kind of feel like I don't exist in to begin with.
Right.
I'm not within the sort of zeitgeist that they think I'm reacting to. I'm just kind of like, no, I think this is neat. But you know, it is what it is. But
yeah, I think that is such a homogenous space in terms of like opinion and what you know, the idea that there are some games that you can't shit on. There are some games that you can't praise because they've been the public consensus has been made on those games, and to challenge that is sort of controversial. And even like you in the past, I've seen you do stuff like parody the Review Tech USA opening for your like Jake American character or whatever they're called. So there is
I actually don't know shit about that guy. I just had a friend who used to watch him like years and years ago. And I just remember hearing that intro just like blasting from his shitty like laptop speakers.
Skibbity bop and butter.
I just wanted to like, yeah, that's funny. I'll do that. Whatever. There wasn't like a very deliberate intentional dig or whatever. I just thought that would be funny to do.
That's so interesting, because for me watching it, I was like, it felt like a real signal of like I am not this sort of thing.
Yeah, but that is in there.
Yeah,
I do that sometimes. And there are also videos that are very deliberate reactions to certain, I guess, zeitgeists. Like I have a video on like why I like Sonic 06.
Yes,
I was very deliberately pushing against the grain there. It was just because I didn't like the grain, and I was just sort of like, well, I mean, I get what everyone's saying. Like I see that the game is janky, but I just don't care. It's just a funny little scrimblo game to me. I remember tons of videos on it very fondly. I have only fond things to associate with this game. Here's the video.
You mentioned jank, and was it scrungle you just used the word? It's a scrimblo game. Yeah. So this idea of like jank, skung, I guess cheapness as well. That it's like this running theme in some of your work, whether it be like your thumbnail video talking about like, I put in my notes soy faces, though I'm hesitant to use that word. Open mouth gamer faces, let's go with. Old bootleg games and consoles, like you're mentioning of Dendy a lot, is signaled me into this. Like, is that just your preferences and your taste, or is that like, again, a deliberate like pushback against a consensus online?
I mean, a lot of it is just like I grew up kind of in the dumpster culturally, and I just like letting that shine through. So I see something like Dendy, and I'm not like Eastern European, but I dig like all my Game Boy games growing up were like bootleg, for example. I had like no official Game Boy cartridges, so I feel like a sort of kinship there with like something like Denny. You're like, oh no, I get this instantly. I understand just like these scrappy like bootleg games and things like that. Like I understand that. I get that. I feel that. And so just like kind of like repping. I also think Dendy is just a funny word.
Yeah, and their elephant mascot is quite
iconic.
Interesting. Yeah. That sort of feels like in another one of these interviews, we ended up talking about how like America-centric YouTube gaming culture is, and that your introduction of like that sort of Eastern European edge, not that you are Eastern European edge, but with Dendy and stuff, it feels like that it opens up a new space and a new understanding of like, oh no, the games have always been many things, not just this one lineage. And in many ways, I think your videos push back against that idea of like one lineage, one set of games for each console.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that like annoys me a lot, not just about like game critique, but about like how a lot of people sort of think kind of in general, maybe a lot of people look at culture and art very narrowly. And I don't know what it is about me, but I just never have. Maybe it's just a product of what I grew up with and how, or like whatever. But I've always felt kind of beside that. And then there's just a few key things I became like aware of. Like a lot of what I learned about video game history came from like American YouTubers. because that's what I would watch. And so it would be like the video game crash of blah blah blah, and I'd just hold on to it, like, yeah, that's when there were no video games. But then I learned even like the slightest crumb about like video game history here, and it was like, no, there were tons of video games, and the MSX was very popular, and blah blah blah. And it was like, how did I not know about this? I've gained like an awareness of that to a degree that just started shining through in like how I talk about like whatever.
Yeah, it distorts a lot of like game conversations, I think, this idea of like the stuff that stuff that released in America, that's sort of the default, and stuff that didn't release in America or was popular elsewhere sort of feels.
I have a game in my next video that's a PAL only game, and I explicitly have a line in there, like, because I've never seen this game brought up. I played a demo of that game as a kid, and I never saw it in any YouTube videos anywhere. I had to like dig to find out what the name of the game even was. I have a line along the lines of like, it's a PAL only game, so as far as like the English speaking YouTube realm, it might not even exist. Because that's kind of how it is a lot of the time.
As we mentioned, you have this sort of aesthetics first look at video games. Would you agree with that to a certain extent?
Yeah, I guess you could say it that way.
Well, at least within your videos, you highlight aesthetic elements to sort of either bridge gaps or bridge gaps in like context and history, or give more insight onto a game. One of my
just what interests me the most, how things like look and sound.
And even down to stuff like font. I mean, your thumbnail game is obviously very infamous and famous for just how awesome it is. But you mentioned once in one of your videos the Inside Sleazy High School Action High-Speed PS3 Hacking and More video. You mentioned the use of the Kiwi Maru font, and how you've noticed it in a bunch of the games that you've covered. And I think the reason was that it has English and Japanese typefaces. So
there's a few fonts that are very common in video games because they support like both languages, and they're just very Unicode, like adaptable. So you see them a lot in video games. And there was a time where I used to not know that that's what that was. And so I used to have these like these mythic fonts in my head of like the PSP font, which I was like, oh, that's the font of the PSP. And I was like, wait, that's also the font in like Final Fantasy 13. Wait, it's also the font in like a lot of Switch games. Wait, it's the font in like the Wii menu too. And just being like, whoa, what is this? What is this font conspiracy? Just being like really in the weeds there, and then just learning like, no, that's just because it's a very adaptable font that does like both English and Japanese characters. So it makes sense for a lot of Japanese devs to use it because they can just pick one font and stick with it.
But I mean, when you find something out like that and then you put it in your video, is the intention there to like, obviously you're giving interesting information of like an interesting question like that, why do all these games use this font? But then it feels like it's like this really elegant way to put games into context. Is that something that you're aware of when you're doing that?
Yeah, I mean, there's no real point in like dancing around it. I'm like autistic,
right?
So I like sort of like creating like little categories for things, and like like I don't know, this is what I like doing. So yeah.
Well, those
I am very aware that I do that.
I mean, it helps within your videos just to understand your point of view on something. When you put a word on it, when you put like a title on, whether it be, as I mentioned earlier, Sophistifuture, which is the name of the early PS3, Xbox 360 shiny aesthetic, early HD aesthetic that you talk about in your mysterious PS3 videos. When you're coining these terms, how does that help you like structure your writing and your analysis of each game?
A lot for me, because it kind of makes it feel like I don't have to explain it from the ground up every time.
Right.
Even though I still do, because I secretly do really like explaining it from the ground up every time, because I'm very passionate about it. But yeah, no, it's helpful in that sense, that I just and it helps create like sort of like categories in my mind for me that are just kind of, how I would phrase it, pleasing to the soul or whatever. I'm
Yeah.
just like, yeah, this just feels good for me. All of these things I like, they're under this banner, and so I can just say I like this banner of this thing, this type of thing.
Yeah. And I feel like, especially with Sophistifuture as an aesthetic, every time it gets brought up in another video, it seems to have been refined slightly, or like the idea of Sophistifuture feels slightly more concrete every time you bring it up. Like that when you brought it up a second time in one of your videos, and you put more of a focus on like the Final Fantasy versus 13 type, like gothic energy within it.
Yeah, yeah.
That felt like, for me as a viewer, I was getting a more concrete idea of what it was. It felt slightly broad in that. So is that just, again, like your thought process of how you're thinking about this stuff personally?
No, it's kind of a realization that in the video that I coined it in, which is Mysterious PS3 Games, I kind of do that thing where I like incoherently kind of ramble my way through a lot of things and just go like zoom past all the things I'm interested in. And so I didn't spend a whole lot of time on like explaining it, what it meant to me that well, and also just talking about a lot of other things at the same time. And so kept seeing it referenced here and there by some other people, which is really cool. But they were using it in a way that I personally wouldn't have, which is fine. Like I look at language as a very fluent thing, and like when I put a term out there like that, it's not like I'm the owner of the term and my definition is the definition. But that did kind of make me feel like, okay, well, I see people applying this to kind of like this more general, this kind of like Y2K future thing, like something like the Wipeout racing games and stuff like that. I was kind of like, well, that's not what I meant with it. So then I was like, I'm gonna extrapolate on it a little bit more once I felt like I had an opportunity to like be a bit more clear about what I meant. But
Yeah.
that's what that was really.
It's funny that people almost immediately started to run with it, and then that you disagreed with their application of it, because that's sort of like the problem. A problem is an interesting way of putting
I
it,
think it's
but
fine. I think it's
yeah,
I like the influence more than anything. I think
you're
that's just really
right,
cool.
that
It feels
people
very
are.
validating to see me referenced in places and stuff like that. I really like that.
Are you ever worried? I mean, you said that you often end up re-explaining what something is, like a category is, when you end up bringing it up again. But are you ever worried that, to like new viewers, people that have just found your channel, that it might be like slightly inscrutable at first?
Yeah, I kind of don't care though.
I thought that
Uh,
would be your answer. I agree with that
well,
idea though. Like that you
I've
shouldn't really care.
I watch a lot of YouTube myself, other
Mm.
than like reading comics, which I only started doing this year, and watching like TikTok in bed in the morning, which is the only time when I watch it. YouTube has been like my primary source of entertainment since like 2009. Like I don't really watch movies or TV shows, Netflix or whatever. I do listen to music a lot, but that's mostly when I like go outside. So my primary source of entertainment has been YouTube for a long time, and so I watch a lot of YouTube and a lot of different types of YouTube. And something that I've always sort of like felt was something that I thought was kind of fun was like getting into a channel and then sort of like seeing that channel make like in jokes or references to itself or like past things that that person has made, and then being able to slowly kind of like uncover that myself as I like start binging their shit. So I really like that.
Yeah.
So I'm also kind of like imagining that someone else could have that with me, where they're like, well, what the fuck is Thor talking about?
Let me go find out,
Let me
sort
go
of
find
thing.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that, because I think that the it allows you, not caring about that stuff allows you to get deeper, and allows you to build on top of yourself in a way that if you had to go back to basics every time, that you wouldn't be able to get to the levels of like interesting stuff that you actually do get into. And yeah.
It's I kind of, doing a lot of videos in the 2010s, I found myself getting annoyed at having to explain things, whether that even be just like how a game works or whatever. And so I've kind of cut that fluff as much as I feel like I can. I kind of don't like it in other people's videos either, if there's like too many summaries of things, for example, like they summarize the whole story. Not that it would make me turn something off or whatever, but I was just kind of looking at that like, well, that's not what I want to do at the very least.
Do you think it goes back to like your view? I know I keep on bringing this up. Your view of like gameplay as like supplementary, not supplementary, but its role to bolster everything else. So to sit and explain every aspect of like a mechanic would be sort of antithetical to that.
Yeah. It's just not what I'm primarily interested in. So I'll talk about that to the degree it correlates to things that I am interested in, but not necessarily on its own merits. No.
Well, I mean, to me, something that you're clearly super interested in is spaces in games and environments, even to the point where you made a really interesting video about liminal spaces in games and the effects of being inside a virtual space, and your own personal preference of like wanting to sort of just hang out in a game rather than complete whatever objectives it might give to you.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about spaces and stuff, how important is that to like the core of your analysis? Like, you obviously talked about how you focus on the parts of a game you like. When you're talking about maybe like the disaster report series or something that is very much just about existing in interesting spaces, is that's something you're trying to highlight even within the editing of your videos, right? Like leaving space between lines and stuff like that. You're quite conscious of it, no?
Yeah. I mean, that's also just like a video pacing thing for me. Like I get like sort of anxious when I feel like something goes on too long in my own videos. Like while I'm editing, I'm like, oh, this feels wrong. This song has been here for too long. This background song, or like I've been using the same tone of voice for too long. And I feel like I need to switch it up pacing wise, which I don't know if that's like undiagnosed like ADHD or some shit or not. But like I'm just like I can't linger on things like that. So then I'll have those quieter segments where I do just kind of let the audio of the game itself talk and not have like background music there, and then I like more quietly talk over it. And I do use that to like highlight like atmospherics and like sort of like the vibe of like a place that I like in a game quite often. Yeah.
But I mean, you make music, so obviously sound and audio is a really big part of your videos, probably more so than other people who just will see it as like a secondary thing or something to throw onto an edit at the very end. When you're writing, are you like actively thinking about background music and audio? Do you have like notes in your script about? Oh, awesome.
I like write to what song I want, like in terms of tone.
Like you have it playing as you're writing, or just in your head sort of thing?
If I need to like refresh myself on like sort of like kind of like the vibe of it more, then I'll listen to it a bit, but not like as I write necessarily. But I'll have it like sort of like the essence of it in the back of my head. Yeah. And the same goes for when I do voiceover as well. So if I pick like a more upbeat song, I'll like change how I use my voice, and it'll be written to suit those changes as well.
Like not like, you mean like not overly wordy or written more punchy, that sort of thing?
Yeah, like say I'll start a segment with like the fucking like Sans Undertale theme. I'll be like, hey, like bada bing, here we go, blah, blah, blah. Like to just suit that tone. Or if something's more upbeat and like happy sounding, I'll like talk up a bit more. I'm like, hey, what is that? Like stuff like that. Like I care about that a lot, yeah. And that is very deliberately done, written that way. It's all like it's all on paper.
What's you have all of that stuff. Obviously, your videos are like super visually interesting, and just you put a lot more effort. Not effort is the wrong framing for it. There it seems very considered, your title cards and stuff like that. Obviously, there is this understanding amongst people that make YouTube that like a lot of the audience are not looking at the screen necessarily when they're watching your videos or anyone's videos.
I get those comments sometimes being like, "Oh, I put your videos on to sleep," and I'm like, "That's
the wrong thing to do."
That's great. That's lovely. Yeah. No,
so
I don't mind,
like,
but I mean, I do that for myself too. Like, I like it that way. So
yeah, it comes with the territory to a certain extent. But I guess my question is like, are you editing the videos, whether audio wise or video wise, with that in mind, or you're sort of like, those people will have the experience they have, I'm editing for the people watching, basically?
I'm editing for the people who watch it, like how I would.
Yeah, that makes
like
sense.
I mean, because I background a lot of shit as well. Like when I say YouTube is my primary entertainment, like I put on like a video when I'm cooking, but it does like depend on like what type of video it is. There's like some things where I'm like, well, I don't need to like take in every single frame of this. I can have this on while I do something else. And then there are videos where I'm like, okay, this is like primary, like full screen material. I am like watching this. And I like to think of my own videos as full screen primary material. Whether they are that to other people, that's for them to decide. But that's how I treat my own stuff.
Yeah, I think that's clear, and I think you give people like a reason to want to full screen, especially even within your like your Patreon supporter credit sections. Like, you have they become music videos, they become like video mood boards in a way, and I just think it's really cool that
I mean, all of that is a product of me primary full screen watching something and then being hit with like a Patreon scroll and just being, okay, well, this is uninteresting. And this like takes up like the last 10 minutes of the video. Fuck that, I'm not watching that. And then being, okay, well, if I'm gonna do something like that, how can I make that it is worth watching, and that you don't click away or close the tab or, you know, back out of the video in whatever capacity. Like how can I make that interesting? How would I like that to be? How would I like to see that? So that's where that comes from.
And in terms of like the visuals of your videos, more and more over the past, from my perspective, like year and a bit, you have been appearing on camera a lot more than you previously have done. And you know, the reasons for that, I'm not sure. Obviously, that's personal to you, but from a viewer perspective, there has been like this slow seeping in of like vloggy type elements in your videos, which I personally, I've really enjoyed seeing. I think the first time I noticed it was when you ate the Sonic curry and you appeared on screen for that. And then slowly over the past year and a bit from that, you introduced more elements like that sort of, to me, culminated in your MGS3 Pachislot video, which felt like a vlog video essay hybrid, like the first sort of cool, interesting one that I've actually seen on YouTube, because I think there's been attempts at it before, but could you talk about that video and sort of why you went for that approach?
Well, I like vlogs. Before I had the ThorHighHeels channel, I had a vlog channel. I sadly deleted everything. I didn't like private it or anything. I deleted it, so I will never know what like little teenage Thor was talking about in those vlogs. But I did vlogs. I always liked that as like an art form, I guess. And something that kind of bothered me, I guess, about like a lot of written, scripted, edited content, like what I do, is that when people would cut to like a segment like that, all of that would fall away. It would suddenly be like, oh, I'm just in front of the camera rambling to the camera now, and like the pacing and everything of the video would kind of like fall apart, to me at least. I would be like, oh, this really hurts the video. And so this was a very like deliberate effort to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna do something like that, but I'm going to make it like really edited, really structured, really scripted, really well paced. But it is going to be ostensibly like a vlog of like this whole journey. And a lot also came from the fact that I had this thing and I kind of realized that it wasn't that interesting, but that the journey of me, the fact that I had it was like the interesting part. Yeah. It's because people have like reviewed it before or talked about it before, and they just like sneak a camera into like a pachinko parlor and stuff like that. But I'm like, I have one here. That's the interesting part.
Yeah, that's the hook.
Yeah, that's where that came from. Yeah.
Yeah. As you said, it was like necessitated by the video, like the more on camera stuff. But you made like a ThorHighHeels video that just so happened to also be a vlog. Like it felt like very much one of your videos first, and then a vlog second, which as you said, you didn't sacrifice the pacing, you didn't sacrifice what people come to your videos for, right?
No, a lot of the things I wrote first and then filmed afterward, right? Like everything. So even like I need an angle of this, or I need a shot of this, that was all like written first, which had like some upsides and downsides. There was a few things where I was like, I think there was something that I wrote like where I was like, yeah, it's like I need to signify that it's like a new day, so I need a shot of like it's a bright sunny new day, and it was like just awful weather for like an entire week, and I was like, god damn it, I just need just one day of fucking sunshine, please. There are some things like that, but yeah, it was like deliberately written. And the whole thing about wanting to do a video like that as well was the fact that prior to like a few years ago, I barely appeared on camera. That's because I just didn't feel good enough to. Like I know it's a very beloved video, so I won't. But if I could, for example, private that like Sonic 06 video, for my sake, I would. I'm not gonna. But
why is that?
Well, this is like pre-transition stuff. I just don't like having that out there.
Oh, okay. I understand. That makes sense. And you were on camera for that.
Yeah, because in that video, there's like the whole like Sonic Curry thing and stuff like that, which I think are fun segments. But I'd just rather not have that out there that way.
Yeah.
And so the pachinko video also kind of felt like a bit of a victory lap for me there. The fact that I'm not only in the video, but I'm also in the thumbnail, and that I like felt good enough about how I looked and just comfortable enough in my own skin to be able to do that. So that was also a big aspect of it there.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, that line that you put in at the end of the video of you are now the hot render babe that you put in your thumbnail. I think it's triumphant when you get to that part of the video. It's really I genuinely really enjoyed that video. I think it's awesome. I've always seen your stuff as we've obviously talked about, sort of bucking trends of YouTube gamer stuff. But then last year or the year before, you made your YouTuber thumbnail video, which obviously was a massive departure from at least the topics of what you're normally covering.
Yeah, and it did like very poorly, and I felt so bad. Actually, that video is interesting. It got very bad views, but it didn't receive a single negative comment. Like everyone who did watch it was like really glowing about it. And a bunch of people who I mentioned in the video as well, like some like bigger YouTubers and like other people, just like random YouTubers who I don't even talk about, like reach out to me like thank you, someone finally says it. I'm like, whoa. So clearly that video like resonated, but I was a little bit dejected by like that's because that's the most time I ever spent editing a video, because that whole video is like basically like animated. I created like a whole town for that video, and like it's very experimental in that sense. Yeah, because I have like segments like that in like a lot of my videos where there isn't something, not like a game I directly talk about, and I think a lot of people will just like maybe put like up some B-roll footage or something like that, but I'm like that. To me, that feels boring creatively to do. So I'm like, okay, well, how do I make it that it's exciting for me creatively? And then I just kind of make my own whatever's there, be that like cool graphic design, or like I go around with a camera, or like whatever the fuck. And that video was an attempt of like, okay, what if I make a whole video that's like that? And I found out the hard way that that's very difficult to edit.
Yeah.
It's not even just that like what's in there was that difficult to edit in and of itself, but there was a lot of just like, well, I have this line.
What goes with it?
What do I put here? Yeah.
I mean, that's a hard thing to deal with, even when you have like hours upon hours of relevant gameplay footage. So I can only imagine in a video where you're sort of building everything from scratch, that must be really difficult.
Yeah.
But within the video, you talk about how even someone like J Station TV and his thumbnails from the 3 a.m. era back in like 2018,
yeah, drinking the gay potion and
yes,
and making out with Kermit and like things like
that. Yeah. Well, you talk about in the video how although there is a level of like lowest common denominator, especially in sort of the intention of the thumbnail is quite cynical. Well, his thumbnails in general are quite cynical in their construction. They're trying to get children to like lock on to them the thumbnails and click.
Yeah, I mean that guy was a piece of shit. Like,
oh yeah, totally. Like, yeah, his thumbnail game was probably the least of his bad deeds, to be honest. Yeah. But you mentioned how even though like it's quite cynical, there is this inherent YouTubiness to the thumbnails, and how the incentives to like put red text or whatever the case may be within the thumbnails like signifies YouTube. It signifies the platform and the medium that the thumbnail was created for. So with that like obvious understanding of like cultural signifiers and what like certain images, certain types of images, especially within YouTube thumbnails, talking about what we're actually talking about, signify that like even if you didn't see the image on YouTube, you could understand that this came from a YouTube thumbnail because of stuff like that. When you are creating a thumbnail, whether it be to call on like YouTube specific signifiers or game specific signifiers, like are you pulling direct inspiration from the games you're covering in your thumbnails, in your title cards and stuff?
It's a lot of different things. My latest upload at the time of that we're recording this is still the Pokemon video, and that thumbnail, the only thing that so there's like elements of those Gen 1 games in there. Like I wanted it to be very white because those games are, at least when you like play them not on like an original Game Boy, they're just very, very white games. So I wanted to work with that and be like, okay, well, normally I have a lot of loud colors. This is an opportunity to have like as little color as possible. And then the only colors that are in there are like red and blue because it's Gen 1. So and to that end, like the game inspired it. But then something else that's like completely aside from that is just the fact that I was like thinking about like the aesthetics of a lot of, I call it like DVD logos, which is not like inherent specific to DVDs, but it's just that kind of era of movies, talking like Blade, Underworld, like a lot of that kind of like there's Existence, the like a lot of movies like that have like very specific kind of like really wide kind of like compressed typefaces. And I started thinking about that at some point last year when I did a video on Devil May Cry, which is a game that kind of carries that aesthetic. And through researching that game, I found the font that it used, which then gave me the power to also make stuff like that, which I then did again when I did a video on Manhunt that year, where I made a thumbnail that I'm really very proud of because it kind of just looks like that kind of like industrial backwash DVD era like horror stuff. And I feel like I really nailed that aesthetic with that, with like the specific font and textures and colors and stuff. But then when I was doing this, and I was like, this is like such a polar opposite of that vibe. It's completely white, but what if I still do a font like that? Like, I just thought that was like cool and interesting to take something like that kind of out of the context that I knew it to be, and then like put it in this. So that's where that came from. That has nothing to do with the game. That was just me fucking like being a graphic design nerd on my own.
But I guess that's sort of, you have like this hybrid approach, it sounds like, where you will, it's like when your personal aesthetic, your personal tastes meet the game and what that can create and expose. I mean, with some of like in the thumbnail video, I think you mention your, is it Mysterious FromSoft games thumbnail?
I think so. I break down a few of them near the end.
Yeah. And those slightly earlier thumbnails, that was just like you being, as you said, a graphic design nerd, right? And experimenting and sort of that collage aesthetic. It's super interesting.
Like, it was just like, what can I do with text that I find interesting? That's a lot of what I like in graphic design, is like typography stuff and things like that. But like the thumbnail for like the pachinko video, for example, outside of like a priority being like that I wanted to be in the thumbnail myself, a lot of the design came from like a friend of mine. She was finding like old archived CD-ROMs of like graphic design stuff and assets, and I found a lot of textures and things on there. And that was like near the end of last year. And with what I found there and the inspiration I took from there, I made like the JFK thumbnail. I made the thumbnail for Mysterious 2024 games. These like really loud, kind of almost sort of like ravey aesthetics, because those were like CDs from like the early mid 90s. And there was one particular thing on there. I think it was like for like, it may have been an ad for like a jewelry brand or some shit. And it just had this really striking design, and it just kind of yoinked a lot of ideas from that. And then used that for that pachinko video thumbnail, which has nothing to do with that video, but I was just like, that looks so cool. I want to work with that.
When do you make your thumbnails in the video process?
I usually don't start working on a video until I have a cool thumbnail.
Oh, wow. So the thumbnail comes first.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll, like right now, for example, I have a few templates on my desktop. I call them templates, which is just like, here's like a cool graphic design idea that I have. At some point, I'll find a video concept that I can kind of like crowbar into this to make it work. Other times I'll get an idea for a video and I'm like, okay, before I commit to this, I want to ensure that I have a cool thumbnail. That's how the Pokemon video went. I was just playing the game and I was like, okay, let me try to make like a thumbnail for this. The Pachislot video started out like one of those latter ones where I just had that like green and orange with all the shapes and the boxes. I just kind of had that. I was like, well, what could I use this for? That was just kind of made on its own, just playing around with graphic design and being creative.
Are you often, so if you're starting, if you have a thumbnail before you've done anything else, are you then bringing some of like the visual language that you've established in the thumbnail into like the title cards and stuff, or are those two things separate for you?
Sometimes I do, if I think it can work well. So with the Pokemon video I did, because I was like, well, this is an easy sort of template to like make a lot of, I have the font, I have the coloring down, so I can just kind of like quickly make a lot of title cards with this that'll look cool. But then sometimes the thumbnail will be so complicated that I'm like there's no way I can like really reliably work with this that well outside of like this one design that it's became. Like with, for example, the Dragon Ball Z video, there's not really any elements of the thumbnail throughout the video. because that video is a fucking clusterfuck. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna ask one more question and then I'll let you get on with your evening.
Yeah.
In your Japan only GameCube games, when talking about
Ooh,
Gift
I
Peer,
like that one.
yeah, that's a good one. When you were talking about Gift Peer, which I am a huge Love Delic fan,
Oh hell yeah.
I found Love Delic because of your Moon video, and
Hell yeah.
now I have a moon tattoo, so that's
Whoa.
yeah, that's the influence that your
That's so
videos
cool.
have had, at least on me.
Yeah, I've been thinking about GIF-P a lot lately. I've been listening to a lot of its songs on
Super
my
dope
my
soundtrack.
walks lately.
Yeah.
This has been very
Yeah.
nice.
But when you mentioned that, when you were talking about that game, you made a comment about how when you feature a video, a game in a video, that sort of fan translations seem to follow behind that often, not all of the time, but often. It's happened
It's
with
yeah.
like Racing Lagoon and a few of the Japan only PS1 games you covered as well. Now have full fan translations, which is obviously great for anyone finding those games through your videos now.
It's very funny that I'll get comments being like, "Oh, this game is like a translation." Didn't you know? I'm like, yeah, it has a translation because of this video.
Yeah. Well, obviously it happened with your Racing Lagoon. You featured Racing Lagoon in one of
Yeah, I
your
mean, some of the
Japan.
other ones might be more coincidental, but the Racing Lagoon one is a very
It's
clear,
definitely,
like,
yeah.
that is my fault. Yes.
Yeah. So, but when you nowadays, now that you've noticed this, are you conscious of that? Are you sometimes featuring a video because you're like, I want this translated? A game, sorry, featuring a game.
Yeah, that was the idea with Give Pia. I think I
Right.
say it even, whereas it's
Yeah.
like, if anyone watching has any modicum of interest or ability to do this, by all means, I would love to see it.
Yeah. And that's, and when you do, when a game that you've covered is translated, you obviously made a more full Racing Lagoon video once that translation was completed. But
Yeah.
do you feel obliged or like you want to make?
No.
No, it's just,
Well,
you're happy for
I
it to
mean,
be out there.
the thing with my videos is that like a lot of the time the videos decide what I play, and I don't really decide what video ideas I get. They just kind of like like strike me, yeah, eureka moments. So I would love to cover a lot of those things. There's a lot of things I would like to talk about. I would love to play fucking like Death Stranding 2, which came out early this year, but it's hard for me to justify sinking that much time into a game when it's not for a video sometimes. I will do it here and there, but I need to be a bit selective with that, through the nature of what I do. And so if I don't have a good video idea, a good avenue to like talk about those fan translations, and it's like, well, like I would love to play them and talk about them, but I just don't have the space for it right now. Maybe I have been thinking like one day maybe I'll do like translated Japan only PS1 games, like specifically, and then just talk about all the things I've already talked about that have been fan translated since.
Yeah, do you ever want to go back to even a game that maybe hasn't had like a translation or something, that maybe, you know, there's games you've covered like over 10 years ago now. Is that ever in the cards for a ThorHighHeels video, sort of
Yeah.
like a revisiting some of the old
I mean, I
stuff?
revisit things like here and there all the time. Some games just kind of don't leave me, and they sort of
Right.
like recur as like interests for me.
Yeah.
And sometimes at most that'll result in me using like a song from them in the background of a video. But other times it will be just like, yeah, no, I need to bust this out again. I need to talk about this.
But it's
It
I
depends.
feel like it's almost like music in a way, and you can tell me whether this comes from like your music production background, but even with stuff like rewatching a lot of your videos, I've noticed the Gex It's Tail Time sample like so much throughout your videos. It feels like you put cymbals, pieces of audio, pieces of footage, like back into your videos as not necessarily callbacks, but like, samples. You're almost sampling stuff. That's an intentional thing, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
it's like producer tags in music and stuff. I'm just that's my sound palette, I guess.
Yeah. Hey son, take a look at this is another one.
Yeah. Damn, son, it's tail time. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, when you can start like mashing them up and subverting them, that's when it becomes really interesting. So anyway, thank you for sitting down with me. Hopefully this has been a relatively interesting conversation.
Yeah, it was fun.
Good, awesome. And thanks a lot. I mean, yeah. Thank you.
Sorry for not ever sitting still and being rambly, but that's just kind of
no. That's totally cool. Cool.